New season, same mission, real conversations with inspiring people. Thanks to our loyal followers who've been with us since season 1, and a big welcome to those joining us now. For our first guest of season 3, we've got Waseem Sayegh, an AI leader, ex-TikTok, ex-Google, and full of stories you'll want to hear. From scaling global brands to building the future. Let's get started. Welcome, Waseem. How are you?
Doing well. What about yourself?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. We have been looking forward to this. We caught up months and months and months ago when I first flagged this opportunity to sort of get you on this podcast. So I'm glad you're the first one for series 3.
I feel so special and lucky.
Brilliant. I want to get started with straight to the point of the hidden facts about you that aren't on your CV, that aren't on your LinkedIn. What can you share with our audience?
Absolutely. Happily married, beautiful wife, 10-year-old daughter, a cat who's 2 years old.
You're a cat man yourself?
I wasn't starting off.
You were converted?
I was totally converted and sucked into it. If anything, my wife took me to get to see some cats. We were not going to buy them. Then eventually got me to get convinced that we should buy one. We bought one and now I'm somewhat converted.
Amazing. Amazing. Let's get into the career side of you, right? Because there's a lot to talk about. You've done a lot in your career. You know, it's been an amazing, I would say, 10, 20 years for you, right? So I'd be negligent to not talk about obviously the biggest brands that you have on your profile. So, you know, what was it like launching a business like TikTok in this region?
A lot of heart, sweat, and tears as well. I've been privileged and lucky to work for big names, whether it's TikTok or Google. And it's been a privilege overall. Look, I've been in a lucky seat as well. Whether it's TikTok or Google, a lot of those business models have been proven in other countries and have shown that they're, you know, it's well beyond a product fit. It's actually, you're building off industries, you're disrupting industries. Again, whether it's Google or TikTok, they've seen successes in their home country. And what we were looking at or doing is bringing that proved technology or proved market fit and bringing it to the region.
Surely though, with certain businesses or certain business models that work abroad, they have to be tweaked and tailored towards this part of the world, because this region is quite unique compared to everywhere else in the world. So what were the major sort of standpoints for you?
Sure thing. Look, when it comes to TikTok, at the end of the day, content is king, right? So while there might be some sort of localization, it's already baked into, let's say, the platform itself, right? So the local content, at the end of the day, you're giving the app to millions and millions of people that are creating content that's very local in nature, and automatically you have that content that automatically surfaces that people like, hence why you would have that instant kind of like market.
From an external point of view, we see it as a very sort of competitive market. You got all the sort of bigger brands in that sort of TikTok sphere. Do you feel it when you're internal? Do you feel that sort of competitive nature where you got your eyes on everyone else and what they're doing, and then you're seeing whether or not you're ahead of the curve?
It's interesting that you say that. When I joined TikTok, it reminded me a lot of YouTube's early days, and I had a bet on the product and company while it wasn't necessarily known to our competitors. If anything, you would call up people letting them know that you joined TikTok, especially folks at Google, and they didn't necessarily know what TikTok was back then. But with any business, whether it's TikTok or any other company, you shouldn't get too bogged down with competitors, if anything. You'll have to be focused on your business, on your drivers, and drive that and make it, bring it to success. Now, with one thing that's interesting about TikTok, it's very native to where the internet is today, right? If you take a look at the entertainment, let's say, at the entertainment industry, whether it's YouTube or Netflix, what you'll see is a lot of those represent the era in which they were developed. And TikTok is so 2000, the vertical screen, video. So there is more nativity to it, or representation to what the consumer wants than, let's say, a YouTube that was developed well before that, or let's say Netflix that was developed well before that. And each one of those were disruptors to their industry at that point, at their point in time. You know, I remember the days of Netflix when they were shipping DVDs. In and of itself, that DVD was quite a disruptor. Blockbuster didn't necessarily take them seriously. right? Because video cassettes was a thing. And then also another disruptor, and they disrupted themselves with streaming video.
Yeah.
And at that point in time as well, it's the same thing. And I'm sure as these devices that connect us to to the internet evolve, maybe VR or who knows what's next, entertainment will also follow that as more people adapt that device and connect to it. So it's very typical. And as consumers follow and eyeballs follow, advertisers will follow as well. And it's just quite natural as well as you kind of take where the consumers are and try to monetize it, at least from an advertising perspective.
Amazing.
And the same thing happened with Google.
Yeah.
Where eyeballs started looking at, your laptop or computer, and advertising followed there too.
Yeah.
So it's quite natural that while these were disruptors, and we all think that our region is unique, at the end of the day, somehow all cultures will eventually converge and will evolve to.
Interesting. Can you pinpoint any sort of moments in your career where you thought this was the optimum, this is where I really want to be, or this is where I'm so proud of what I've achieved? Are there any sort of moments or any sort of just landmarks for you personally?
Specific landmarks
In this episode, by the way.
yeah, of course. So you're always kind of, when I take a look at my career, obviously launching Google in the region was a high moment for me.
Yeah.
I would say launching TikTok as well was quite a thing as well. You get this kind of like quite adrenaline rush today basis type of thing. Things in between were a bit of a lull between Google and TikTok. The speed at which you're able to execute within both of those companies were quite high in terms of career. Even right now, as we launch and work with AI and telematics, that's another high as well.
Yeah.
You're starting up something from scratch. And that early stage is where I enjoy doing.
It's funny you mentioned that lull in between like those highs, right? Like people, it's easy to just sweep it under the rug when it happens. But when you work somewhere that's great and you're buzzing and you're kicking goals, and then you go somewhere else where it doesn't really hit those highs, and then you've got that lull in your career, in your motivation, in your drive, and then you find somewhere else where then you get that pickup again. Like it's funny how, when you have those lulls, like, do you go back to revisit those lulls to see what you could have done differently, or do you just accept them for what they are?
You never look back.
Yeah.
You never look back.
No self-reflection?
No. You just keep on looking at it, and you look forward type of thing.
You've ruined half my questions here now.
We'll make them interesting nonetheless. Yeah. We talked about lulls. We talked about those peaks. At the end of the day, what I find is with a career is your personality, workplace, and those cultures, and whether there is a sweet match. The more that your personality and what you bring to the company and their culture and what they value, if both of these things match, this is where the magic happens.
Let's stay with that, okay? Because you mentioned off air that we're talking about the personal side, right? And I dared you to go down this path because this is where I'm very, very comfortable.
Sure.
A lot of my posts on LinkedIn, a lot of my content is around the human side, is around the personal, let's say, impact that companies or businesses have on individuals, but also what people can have on the business, right? But I'm not naive to the fact that our successes as individuals really stems from who we are as humans outside of work.
Sure.
And if we're not in a good place outside of work, it creates a very challenging, sort of environment for you to be successful in your actual business. So were there trigger points for you, in your personal life where, you felt blessed and you felt comfortable and you felt sort of supported, and that's what sort of kicked you on in your career?
100%. Look, it's no secret for you to be successful, for example, in your job or career. I'm very blessed to have a supporting wife. You work very hard. You spend a lot of hours at work. You can't do that if you don't have that support from your wife, your family, and so on and so forth. So I'm lucky to have that position as well. And I owe a lot of my success to my wife. And beyond that as well, one thing that I've noticed as well, and I share that a lot with my employees or people that I work with, one trigger and what I found as well is having a kid.
Yeah.
And you're smiling there.
Yeah.
It's interesting how before having responsibility or a kid, your maybe selfishness or that void that you have makes you kind of overthink about or you you're not grounded in terms of where your focus and energy should be.
They give you a perspective that you don't have without them. Yeah.
As soon as you have a kid,
Yeah.
your priorities change,
Yeah.
right? And it's one where not only the priorities change, but also, if I were to kind of like look at that as an extreme, and I like to use kind of like extremes just to make a point there, if I go back to my college years when you didn't have any responsibilities, the place where you live didn't really matter.
No.
You just needed
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
A roof.
Exactly. A roof,
Running water.
just running water, and that's about it. And you would accept it for yourself, right? But if you have a kid, you want to make sure that they have the best life.
Yeah.
And that drives you drastically in your career. So I saw my career accelerate drastically once I had my daughter, because it's a very different calculation. It's a very different priorities, I would say there. And you start driving towards success to ensure that they have a better life than you.
We're going to get personal now.
Sure.
You've done it.
Sure thing.
Okay. All right. So in a world where everything's remote and we're always online, and we're expected to work, the 9 to 5 is dead. The 8 to 6 is dead.
Sure.
It's now 24/7, 11 p.m. emails, 2 a.m. conference calls with someone in the States or somewhere else in the world, right? How do you personally find the balance of still being a present dad, a present husband, and still taking on the responsibilities in a workplace or in a working society that demands so much from leaders?
It's hard. It's very hard. There are compromises that individuals have to do, families have to do, and we talk about that, right? I mean, we talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
And I wish there was a place or something that you're able to kind of like optimize toward. We thank God, we have a good life. And you have a good life because you have a good career, and you're trying to think about, okay, at the end of the day, that's a good life for our kids and family, right? Do you compromise for that? And let's say there is a balance, then how does that trickle down to your family too? So is there a balance? Maybe not. But then you try to offset it. You try to make up for it in somehow, shape, or form. And at least for us, when we kind of like make up for it, it would be for short vacations, time where you disconnect, where you spend all your time with the family. And this is how you control for it as well. So especially in today's world, and you mentioned it, maybe if you were in some Scandinavian country, you would have that kind of balance. But where we are in our region, that's ever growing, that balance is somewhat, thankfully, not there. Thankfully, because we're in growing economies at the end of the day, right? And we have a good life. Nonetheless, a place where quality of life is very high too. So I think we're in lucky position that there are these demands. I mean, if you go to a third world country, they're going to tell you, no, I actually would rather not have that balance and make sure that I have a job that can get me out of poverty.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I've got a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 5-year-old, and
I met one of them.
Yeah, you did.
Yes.
You did. Yeah. And there's a lot of comments, in my circle of friends that my youngest is my favorite. I think I'm a better parent now than what I was 10 years ago when I had my first child. So it's noticeable that I'm more engaged with my youngest because I've grown as a parent myself. Just like in careers, like you get better at what you do. And 10 years on from having my first, I'm now a lot more engaged, and I know when to commit to certain times to actually be present and actually, just play or just, educate or just do something with, the kids compared to 10 years ago when my mindset was, earn
Sure.
because I needed to provide, right?
Sure.
So it's almost like it's an inaccurate perception on me as a parent because that's what they see, that they're involved with him. You can't be everything to everyone all the time,
Sure.
right? So you have to find that balance. And,
Sure.
you know, there are running gags for entrepreneurs that we have this luxurious life that we can, you know, do whatever we want because we're our own bosses and whatever it may be. Like, no, it's not. No, it's not. We are
have a boss.
we are always, right? We're always answering to something.
Yeah.
We're always responding to something else.
Sure.
We're always thinking of something or innovating something else, right?
Yeah.
Our minds work differently.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
it's never an off button for us, no matter what, which is the reason why like we always try and do different things, right?
Yeah.
But I think as we get older, we probably just learn to, when we're there with our families, whether it's wife or kids or, you know, friends and so forth, that we actually are a lot more present as you become more and more experienced.
I would say it's about, at the end of the day, what you value at that point in time. And things do change, right?
Absolutely.
And what you value will change over time as well, right?
100%.
So no question about it. And as these things change, obviously, the way that you interact or react will be quite different as well.
Let's bring it back to business.
Sure thing.
Okay. Scaling up businesses and just, you know, just ramping them up and so forth. The talent side has been a big topic for 5, 6, 7 years here in the region, right? And how difficult it is to identify great talent, to attract them and to retain them. Give us an insight into your mind, into your sort of methodology when you're ramping up those first 5 hires that you're thinking of. What makes it crucial? Like, what are the things that you're looking for when you're building a business from scratch?
Sure thing. So I'll share with you a few things here about the first few hires: hunger, hustle, and adaptability as well. I think that's very key for the first hires that you have. I can tell whether I want to hire somebody from the first 5 minutes of the conversation.
You're one of those.
Yeah. 5 minutes. I don't know how long does it take?
3.
I don't know. You've gone through so many interviews and all that, like right away. I can tell. And if I can't, if I'm in that point where I'm not 100% sure, I do give it another 5 minutes. But by then,
have you been wrong ever where your gut feel was no first, but then you were convinced afterwards?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've had maybe 1 or 2 of those interviews where I would go straight up and say, I'm not too convinced, in a gentle way.
Yeah, of course.
And then giving them the opportunity for them to respond back. And now that I think about it, I did hire somebody at that point in time after saying, I'm not too convinced. I'm at the back of my mind. And then I gave her a chance. And then she presented herself in a certain way. And I said, actually, we'll hire that person. And she ended up, it was a very great hire, if anything.
Yeah.
And one interesting thing as I look back at my team at TikTok, one interesting theme that somehow was an indication within the resume, and I never thought about it at that point in time, but in hindsight, you were looking at it, surprisingly, was the amount of countries that person has lived in.
Right.
Or where that career has taken them. And the more that they've traveled, the more different places that they've been to, the better fit that person was. Because it shows, or it's maybe a proxy to somebody that's hungry, that's adaptable, that's hustler.
Definitely.
And they're going to the best opportunity for them, regardless of where that opportunity is present from a physical location.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Can you think of any disaster hires that they want to share on off record? We're not recording now, so just
look. I've had a few, very few. I wouldn't say a lot, especially when you're scaling up, and even from a brand name early on at TikTok, it wasn't easy to bring on people because they didn't know what it was. There was a lot of question marks as well, very, very early on. And there were a few, and surprisingly, they did come from big names as well. And you would think that big names would filter out and whatnot, but I think at different stages of companies, different needs will emerge type of thing as well. So they're good people at the end of the day. It's just a certain fit.
Yeah, I think it's easy to hide in sort of bigger businesses as well. And I think when they come into a smaller business in a scale up where
100%.
everything is there, fully exposed, you got to see them for who they really are, right?
Yes.
And how they operate. Like there are so many people that way.
And the reality is that most people are risk averse.
Yeah.
most
Yeah, definitely.
naturally speaking, the risk averse, surprisingly to me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm risk averse, let's say, but everybody does their calculation in so
Yeah, yeah.
many different ways, and most of the people are comfortable.
Yeah.
Are comfortable in their own
Yeah.
place, and they are resistant to kind of like change for
Yeah.
even bettering themselves, or at least making certain bets.
Yeah.
And when we say risk averse, I would say is people overthink what failure could look like. They way over, let's say, estimate the consequences,
Yeah, absolutely.
and they think about it from a very disastrous perspective when
Yeah.
everything is manageable in
Yeah.
life. And you realize that much later on in life that anything and everything is manageable.
I sit in a privileged seat where I get access to a lot of organizations and business leaders and help them with sort of people and culture advisory. And I get to look at some businesses that are completely chaotic in how they're structured and how they are sort of trying to build and scale. And then I work with some other businesses that kind of have the right idea and just need a little bit of guidance. Okay. But in your perspective, from your experience, how much emphasis do you put on the culture side and the people side when you are building a business as opposed to, the revenue, the ROI, the market fit and everything else in between?
Look, it's very interesting at the end of the day. From a culture perspective or a business, these things kind of like are hand in hand, and especially when you have, you know, at the end of the day, it's a business, right? And most of these businesses, at the end of the day, you're operating to certain shareholders,
Yep.
and the bottom line ends up being the most important things
Yeah, absolutely.
to let's say folks that you're reporting to. So I think it's very different than operating business versus maybe a sole entrepreneurship type of thing. But at the end of the day, happy people will give you a much further
Yeah.
output than you could imagine,
Yeah.
right? At the end of the day, it's just agreeing on what we value,
Yep.
what's important to us as a team,
Yep.
as a company, and how do we make sure that that aligns as close as possible to what makes us successful too,
Yep.
right? And we talk about that culture. At the end of the day, it's culture isn't what you write down on
No,
a piece of
absolutely not.
paper, right? It's all of it is
Behaviors.
it's behavior, it's unwritten rules.
Absolutely.
This is what I find culture
Yeah.
to be. And what you want to make sure is that culture ultimately drives success.
Yeah.
Right. And it's tough being in HR, I would say, right? Because they're kind of like given a task to create culture, and there are all these conflicting priorities as well, right? And, if you take a look at kind of like the Google, good old days of Google versus what you hear about it now, it's a very different beast of things,
Yeah.
right? Especially when maybe the first dollar at that point in time is easier versus the next dollar versus the
Absolutely.
10th and all that.
Yeah.
All these things get dialed and priorities shift. And that affects at the end of the day the culture that
Yeah.
you're building. So going back to your question, it's every single point in time will require maybe
Yeah.
a shift, a change. And again, it all goes down to the value system. Is there agreement on those values?
Yeah.
The more that there's alignment, the happier that the people. And no matter what, I shouldn't say no matter what those values are, as much as is if people are aligned with these values, and it could be working very late, for example. Some people might like it, some people might not. It could be working, I don't know, in a chaotic place. People might value that as well.
Yeah.
Who knows, right? So it all goes back to whether that culture is also conducive for us to drive our goals and ambitions, and whether people believe in those cultures, in that culture, in those unwritten rules. They like them, they don't like them, and that at the end of the day will bring you that success.
Do you think you're a leader that drives the culture from the top?
Uh,
Am I putting you on the spot here?
oh, I wouldn't say, but I'm just thinking about it a little bit. Um, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a compromise.
Yeah.
you're going to be pushing a little bit, and then at the end of the day, things will shape up.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have different forces, and things will kind of like shape up at the end of the day, and it will eventually there has to be some level of equilibrium.
Yeah.
In any sort of ecosystem, you're going to have different forces, and then towards the end of the day, there's going to be some set of equilibrium. Once you get to that equilibrium, is when you have uh, things that are smooth and easy sailing. From that point till there, it might be a little bit, let's say, murky.
I've read a lot of stuff about, how do you sort of gauge what kind of leader someone is, and you can talk to their teams or talk to their previous sort of, staff members and so forth, right? And I've used that over the years, that whenever someone is going to come and work with me, I'll give them access to people who have worked with me in the past for a long period of time. There are a couple of people, one in particular who's actually in this room at the moment, who's been with me for around 8 years in 3 different companies. And I think they're a great representation as to who I am as a leader, because they don't sugarcoat. They've made that choice to come along for the ride, for the journey for a long period of time. As leaders, we can try and sell ourselves in the best possible way. Hey, if you come work for me, I will create this career pathway for you, and I'll develop you, and I'll invest in you, and I'll do this and this and this and so forth. And at the end of the day, people can see it as spin. But when they hear it and see it from people who have actually worked with you along the journey, then it's a lot more impactful, right? And that goes with that saying of, what do people think of you when you're not in the room as a leader? If you had to sort of, just step back, all right, not look back, step back, okay, and think of if you had a team of your leadership, and then after the board meeting, you did that. I don't know whether you saw an episode of Jerry Seinfeld once. There was like a George Costanza. He left a recording in a boardroom to just record what people were saying about him after. It was quite paranoid, right? What do you think your sort of leadership teams in the past would actually say about you once you left the room?
I look unlucky from that perspective. What I would tell you is, till this day, I get pings from ex-employees that are gauging or seeking my advice.
Love that.
And it's comforting to hear that.
Yeah.
A lot of them are on WhatsApp, and we still chat with one another. I love it.
Yeah.
I really love it. Just last week, somebody reached out from New York asking for my advice. Funny enough, he pinged me on LinkedIn, and I saw his message come to my inbox, and immediately I responded back. And I was happy to hear from him. And he was like, I need your advice. I need your help. And you came to my mind as soon as I thought of something. And I'm like, for you, anything.
Yeah.
You definitely deserve it.
That's amazing.
And that gives you kind of affirmation.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you've done things right. They're also looking for your help, that there is some that there is that mutual benefit or respect that you have for one another, for sure. Like that's. But at the same time, if you look at, let's say, my leadership style, it's not with everybody will gel with it as well. Very different personalities, different priorities, different value system as well that people might have. And the higher the fit is, the easier working with folks ends up being. But at the end of the day, like I said, with a lot of folks, appreciating what I've helped them and done and helped them push in their career.
Yeah.
And the reality is that, if you look at kind of like let's put it between quotes, a high performer person, you've put a lot of pressure on yourself to achieve a lot of things, and you expect that out of everybody as well. And, but it might be tough for everybody.
Yeah.
And you have to be somewhat conscious of that.
Yeah.
And you've talked about, your first 5 hires. But what if that is 100? Is 100 people will have the same? Are they going to be all, students of the day? And how do you drive that organization to success, irrespective of people's capabilities as well? And it becomes more and more difficult, but nonetheless achievable. So first 5 hires is very different than 100 as well. Very different, right? But as you scale, you'll have to be able to put in a structure that helps you in a way to be able to drive that whole organization to success too.
It's 2025 now.
Is
and it's been a while since you first joined TikTok.
Correct.
Okay. But if you got in that role today, and today in this time, in this generation where everything's happening now, this was the year that you were launching TikTok, what would you do differently?
Well, I wouldn't change anything.
Nothing?
I would not change anything. I think
I actually love that. That's good.
no, I wouldn't change anything. I mean, things were very successful. We've set up an amazing team.
Yep.
Drove things to some, if people thought of what we were doing back then, they would have said, no way. But nonetheless, it was successful. Obviously, the pandemic helped accelerate that as it did with a lot of businesses,
Yeah.
especially online businesses.
Yeah.
But we don't have a pandemic today, so I wouldn't
Yeah.
ask for that. Nonetheless, people staying at home has
Yeah.
helped that. But nonetheless, you've had a winning formula, so wouldn't change anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the hot topic, which is AI. If we
Sure.
can, we'll touch on it for a little bit because we have to. Otherwise, we're being negligent
Sure.
if we don't do anything about it. There's fear around it. There's, what does it mean for people's jobs? What does it mean? How is this technology going to be used? Just for society, for businesses, and so forth. Give us your opinion. Like, what part of your job do you think that you can just say, you know what, AI should be able to do this for me. I shouldn't be doing this anymore.
Look, if we look at any disruptive technology, there's always a fear. I remember of the old days of the internet, and there was always fear there as well, right? Mobile phones, same thing. It's happening nonetheless, right? And everything will have a pro, will have a con, no matter what. At the same time, what's interesting about AI as well, it's a building block at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right? It's a building block, but it will accelerate a lot of that change as well.
Definitely.
Right. And as a business, you definitely want to jump on that. And not only that, but also see how you're able to accelerate things. Do all my job, I wouldn't mind that at all, right?
I'm the same.
But by all means, I wouldn't mind that at all. But as you look at the more monotonous scheduling, replying to emails, all of that day to day, that operational aspect of things, if you're able to, get an AI agent to do that for you, I'd be more than happy.
I think you're right, though. I think when you mentioned that there's always been stages in time that people have been fearing technology, right? And whether it's the internet and whether it was, phones and smartphones and social media and so forth.
And we've lived maybe,
we live too much of it.
But I'm sure even back then with our grandparents, I'm sure the invention of the automobile was seen as...
And TVs.
It was like a threat, right?
Absolutely.
Pretty well.
Yeah.
We're still alive. We're doing well.
We adapt.
Yeah.
We adapt really well.
Yeah. And at a certain point in time, you come to it and you start thinking, how did I live without it, right? So I think it's something to embrace.
Imagine trying to catch up with friends without phones.
Yeah.
But we did it 20 years ago.
Sure.
We said, meet me here at 3 p.m. and then you met him at 3 p.m.
Sure.
Without WhatsApps. Where are you? How far are you? What's going on? In a taxi or not, Whereas now...
Or our parents come pick me up or,
Ubers and Grabs and all these things that we have. We didn't have that. It was standing in a taxi rank, waiting for 45 minutes for your taxi in the rain to go and meet somebody else with no phone.
Yeah.
Them wondering where you are, you wondering when you're going to get there.
Yeah. And these are all disruptive technologies, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know about you right now, but I can't imagine myself not having that, I guess, luxury.
No.
Right?
It's impossible.
Yeah. And for us, at least we know what the past looked like, right? You're right now in a generation of with kids that don't know what the...
Clueless. Right? Completely clueless.
Right? And we were also clueless about our grandparents, right? And how they...
absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
If I take a look at my daughter, for granted, the internet is there.
Yeah.
Streaming is there.
Yeah.
Right? What was it? Yeah, she has a term like the olden days.
Yeah.
She makes me feel...
We're the olden days.
Yeah, exactly.
Our parents and our grandparents were the olden days, and now we're the
olden days, right?
And I hear my dad's voice when I talk to my kids now, because I say, when I was your age, and I can't believe I'm actually saying these things to my kids, talking to them about when I was your age, we had to sit in one living room, watch what my parents were watching on TV because we had one TV. Not everyone on their own devices watching whatever they want, because we have Wi-Fi and so forth. We actually are becoming our parents, just a different version of it, right?
Of course. Yeah. So they have a very different baseline right now, right? But what's also interesting about technology is that a lot of these technologies, and when we talk about it as a building block, just the speed of change is more exponential as well.
Yeah.
right? So it will be interesting to see what the next 20 years have, because it's going to be much faster than the last
100%. Yeah.
right? So I think the best will come out
Brilliant.
for sure. Maybe we'll go to Mars. Who knows?
Thanks. I think I'm happy here.
I wouldn't be surprised in our lifetime that technology will get us.
You go first and tell me how it is.
Sure thing. For sure.
We've got some rapid fire questions, okay? So just like personal questions, some random weird questions,
Sure.
okay? What's the one app that you can't live without?
Funny enough, TikTok.
Is it really?
Yes.
No plugs, yeah.
No, for sure.
No?
No, for sure.
Really?
If I were to look at my consumption of the different apps on my phone, TikTok is high up there.
Yeah. I don't see you a TikTok dancer.
That's not the content necessarily that I watch, but I would say high up there for sure. TikTok, WhatsApp is there. That's
Yeah.
the way that you're connecting with family, friends.
Can I go personal for a second? What age do kids get on social media in your mind? For the record, for the millions and millions of viewers out there.
13 plus.
13 plus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm careful with my with my daughter for her to create her content.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, she does have a YouTube channel now that I think about it.
Yeah.
She is on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
It's hard to control at the end of the day, because if they're not on it, their friends are on it as well, and
exclusion feeling. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And look, as a parent, it's hard to make those choices.
Yeah.
And I'm saying hard with an asterisk as well, because we just don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go and profess what's right and what's
Yeah.
wrong. We won't know till 20 years from now.
Yeah.
And somehow kids are resilient as well. Like, no matter what happens, they're adaptable way more than what we think they are. So
I'm trying to ruin the whole rapid fire because
sorry.
Quick, but then I gave you like a follow-up question because I was just intrigued to know.
I'll keep my.
Let me try and reel it back in. The go-to coffee for you. What's your favorite?
Americano.
Americano. Okay. The ideal dinner guest, one-on-one, alive, not dead.
Favorite singer, Shab Khalid.
Okay.
Yep.
Something that you're proud of in your career or in your life that is not on LinkedIn.
Love traveling.
Yeah.
Been to 60 countries.
Is that 60?
Yes.
Wow.
Lived in 3, so that's 63 in total.
Wow.
Next week it will be 64.
Well,
and I hope that I could get to see every country in my lifetime.
What's your favorite?
My favorite, Japan.
Japan.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's another world. South Africa is high up there as well.
Yeah.
Got a chance to go to a safari. Not an animal person myself.
Yeah.
But
you're a cat person.
There you go. Now I am, I guess. But when you see them in the wild, it's something else.
Amazing. Last one. Okay. This one is personal because it's about us. Okay. One word to describe your experience on this podcast. What a great word. What an amazing word.
Phenomenal.
Brilliant. Waseem, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on board.